BRICS nations are launching a new gold-backed currency. Stack gold and silver before BRICS collapses the US dollar. Hype or reality? Let's sort it all out. Did you know that SD Bullion is giving away a monster box of 2023 Silver Eagles? Sign up today at sdbullion.com/sweepstakes. Hey everyone, thanks for watching Yankee Stacking. Now there's been a lot of hype and angst over BRICS, and especially in light of the recently concluded 2023 BRICS Summit. BRICS, if you don't know by now, is basically an economic cooperation of nations made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So I asked Lior Gantz, one of my favorite precious metals expert and frequent guest on Yankee Stacking, to help us set the record straight. Hi, Lior. Thanks for joining Yankee Stacking again.
Thanks for having me.
The 15th annual BRICS Summit. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, especially in the gold and silver stacking community. And I want you to help us separate fact from fiction. Number one, at this recent BRICS Summit, the block of nations included in BRICS significantly expanded. Fact or fiction?
Yeah. So, fact. They did expand. They added a number of countries that have nothing to do with each other so much, but on aggregate, they now control about 46% of global GDP. The new members, and over a third of global population. Yet there is not even one member in the G7. So the entire premise of BRICS is that, hey, look at us. We're half of the world GDP almost. We're about a third of the global population, yet you give us no room in your Bretton Woods system agreement. So we need our own bank. We need our own agendas, and we will pursue them. So that's one thing they're doing. And yeah.
When does that become effective?
The new members are slated to join January 1st, 2024. We'll see if all of them end up, joining. But just keep in mind, this is an association. This has no binding. There's no binding agreements or anything. It's a working group. It's a think tank.
Fact or fiction? This is going to increase the BRICS share of global GDP.
Yeah. So obviously, you add more nations, you add more GDP. Ethiopia is not like a real powerhouse or anything, but Saudi Arabia is important because to join BRICS, they are clearly saying that the United States doesn't cut it anymore for them as a protector. So it's a real stare in the face of the legacy petrodollar system that's falling apart.
So next fact or fiction statement, Lior. India and the UAE recently settled the very first oil trade without converting their local currencies into US dollars. Fact?
I have no idea if it's fact or fiction, but it sounds very reasonable.
Yeah, actually, I do know the answer to that one. India's top oil refiner, the Indian Oil Corporation, made payments for oil in rupees. They bought 1 million barrels of oil from Abu Dhabi's national oil company in a dollar-free transaction.
Yeah, so that's the main premise of their discussions, is how to create transactions that include more of their currency and less of the United States currency as much as they can, because when you raise interest rates as you do right now with the Fed, that may hurt your mortgage payment, but for them, for developing countries, that's survival. Like, that is killing their way of life, and that is one big thing that they're trying to do.
A lot of people are saying the petrodollar is dead. Is that fact or fiction, Lior?
That's fiction. That's so let's just define petrodollar before I really answer this. Okay, so petrodollar means the state of the world after the Saudis did what they did in the 70s, and the United States came in and said, look, let's protect you, your allies, your oil, and in turn, for us, we'll stay in the Middle East and we'll keep you safe with our Navy, and you will sell oil in a very predictable manner to us and to our allies. So that has been changing and evolving since 2011, since fracking in the United States made the U.S. Independent in terms of energy, both in oil and natural gas, and of course, because the United States wants to leave the Middle East as much as possible and venture into the South China Sea. So, with all of that, the system of the Saudis selling oil for dollars that is nowhere near ending. But are they looking at alternatives because of the new world that's forming? They 100% are, as they should, as the Americans should, because we are really rapidly changing this legacy system. Does it mean that the United States doesn't remain the reserve currency for now? No, it doesn't mean that at all. So if that was the real question behind this, whether or not this changed the status of the reserve currency, it doesn't. I don't think that's the real issue. The real issue that is behind the petrodollar and the reserve currency is who controls more of the world's framework. Right now, what you have with the SWIFT system and with these global institutions like the World Bank and IMF, through lending practices and through being an intermediary for settlements, they can sanction countries, they can impair them if they want to militarily, and that is really the cry out of the BRICS countries and of the global South.
And this was greatly exacerbated with the Russian-Ukraine war. I mean, we've used the dollar as a weapon for a while now.
100%.
Put nations under our
40
thumb.
40 countries are under some sort of sanctions. 40 countries around the world.
40.
Yeah, have some sort of sanction by the United States government.
They don't want that. This is an expected reaction to that. But let's get to the currency. People have been talking about a Russian deputy chairman of the Duma. I think his name was Alexander Babakov. He said the transition to settlements in national currencies was just the first step. The next one would be the circulation of a new currency, probably digital, not necessarily, but probably. He said that a, quote, single currency would likely emerge pegged to gold. Lior, is this fact or fiction?
It's fiction.
Did they announce any currency at BRICS?
They announced intention. There's nothing there.
Okay. All right.
Look, the euro, which was less complex than what they're suggesting, took 20, 25 years of thinking, and it's not there. It's not doable.
So a gold-backed currency. Fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's sound money. I at the risk of sounding, a little unpatriotic here, I'd want some of that.
Well, listen, there are ways for the average person to, basically back anything he has with gold, just buy gold. So
absolutely.
You don't need to wait for any government to fix their currency supply to their gold reserves. You can just, save and invest in gold, and that's it. The dollar is not dead at all. The United States is shifting in priorities. In terms of, as you can see in Europe, Germany is militarizing like crazy. In the South Pacific, Japan is militarizing like crazy, and they are buying a lot from the United States, and they're using the dollar to do it. But is the dollar changing the way that it's used? Of course, because these sanctions do matter, and a lot of countries not only hate these sanctions, but they despise the fact that they're beholden to these high interest rate environment that kills them.
The bottom line is the U.S. needs the world to transact in dollars. It needs it to buy its bonds. We can't finance, $1 trillion+ worth of debt without the dollar remaining high on its perch. With so much U.S. debt, any shift away from the dollar, even if it's gradual, that's going to be huge because of our huge debt levels in the U.S.
Yeah, I think that with the changing of the guard between the boomers and the millennials, they care about the debt. The millennials care a lot about the debt. That's something that they always say. Hey, look at all the debt that our parent generation has wrecked up, and etc. I think that the 2024 election, and certainly the 2028 elections, will be all about fiscal responsibility. There will be a lot of changes, especially if interest rates remain high. Yes, it has debt that's unsustainable. Yes, it will need to be addressed meaningfully. But famous words of Warren Buffett were, "I can solve the national debt in 5 minutes." If they legislate a law that you cannot be voted into your next term as a congressman, a senator, or president, whatever, if you don't shrink the deficit, then we will not have a deficit. So it's all about like the people. If the people wake up to this in mass and finish this lunacy in terms of the spending, then this has a chance. But the American people have to call their congressmen daily and say this is insanity.
Last statement here. These economically aligned BRICS countries are also politically aligned. Fact or fiction?
Fiction, I would say. They're not politically aligned at all. They're very different. China and India have can give you like a book full of issues between them. It's not all roses over there.
And not to mention Saudi Arabia and Iran. They've been battling it out for forever, it seems.
Yeah, for centuries, if not more. The reality is, the United States is still the biggest military, the biggest economy, the biggest everything, the biggest innovation. There's so much.
But Lior, we could look back on this in 10, 15, 20 years down the road and say, yeah, this was a huge turning point in world economic history. We don't know, but we need to prepare. We need to be able to, like you mentioned with gold and silver, stack it, be your own central bank, be your own hedge against economic turmoil that could be coming.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Lior. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.